Welcome to Watch and Complain, the Spider-Man No Way Home. That's what it's called, right?
5-minute version. There's only one of us has seen it.
I saw it. I went to the COVID Madness theater.
Well, let's talk about that for a quick second.
Yeah, go for it.
We're in Kingston, Ontario, which has become the epicenter for COVID. I believe in all of Ontario.
Yeah.
And one thing that's interesting, and it was kind of an argument I saw Phil having with someone, because I don't take part in arguments. I just watch them or start them and walk away. This person who had brought up that it's embarrassing to be from Kingston. And Phil brought up a great point that, and it was funny, I was discussing this with my wife, and I was watching last night an interview with Jake Tapper and Anthony Fauci about this. Kingston is like 90% vaccinated. That's one thing that we do know. And the reason that it's so fucking high is the same fucking reason that it's super high in places like Ottawa, places like Montreal, because we have a huge school community here. You put, and it as much as I'm not a big fan of universities, not so much universities, but the kids that go to them, you put a whole group of people into a fucking building together. It's a germ factory. The same as our fucking kids going to school is a germ factory. It's fucking germ factory. And the fact that, even Fauci says this virus mutates in a way that we've never seen before. It's the Omicron variants, the Delta variants, new variants that are going to come after that. This is part of what happens with the lifeline and the lifetime of a virus. So anybody that's in Kingston that's down on yourself, if you're vaccinated, if you're not vaccinated, you should probably just die anyway. But if you are vaccinated, don't be down on yourself. This is part of what happens with a fucking virus. This is part of what happens organically. This is what naturally fucking happens. Yes, it sucks that we're the epicenter, but it's not for anything that we've done ourselves.
If it wasn't us, it'd be someone else.
Who said that we should be embarrassed to be from Kingston?
Some dipshit on fucking Reddit that I saw. Like, I'm embarrassed.
Okay, well, Reddit, there you go. Who
that's what it is.
Dipshit on Reddit?
And willing to bet this person was some fucking, non-vaccinated, I hate Trudeau on the back of his fucking car. Yes, Trudeau is a piece of shit, but I don't walk around going, I hate Trudeau. He's a reason for COVID. I hate fucking Doug Ford. He's a reason for COVID. Mm-hmm. Like, I hate those people. So
yeah,
that's my little
yeah. I mean, I have my own people who I'd like to blame for this whole virus. The WHO's response to the pandemic in the first place, them not having a doctor for the first time as their head CEO, having a complicated, they responded so well to H1N1, and then with this, they just dropped the ball, and then Donald Trump really exasperated it.
It also has to do with who was in charge of the White House. Not that that's going to influence the WHO, but who was in charge of the White House made sure that they downplayed this on so much fucking social media that other countries were not influenced by that, but it's almost like he had a fucking bullhorn when other people were trying to explain to their citizens what to do. This dipshit that was in charge of the United States was like, it's just a flu, it's fucking nothing. It'll be gone tomorrow.
Let's be honest, Canada didn't do too well either. They were very reactive.
Absolutely. Canada didn't do great, but
they did much better than the United States.
That's a good point.
They were very reactive rather than proactive. If I could see it coming, I'm just some layman.
I don't know about you guys, but I saw this coming in March. As soon as it was, I'm like, this is going to be a year thing. I didn't think as many people, a lot of people were smarter than me and were like, it's this is going to be a 2-3 year thing, where there were three camps. There was, it's going to last 2 weeks, it's going to last a year, it's going to last 3 years, or there's nothing to worry about.
I was initially very dismissive about it. When it started, I was like, this will be gone. This will be gone soon. But when I'll never be so arrogant is that when people start dying at a significant rate, that's when you start like, okay, this is something to be extremely concerned with,
but that's why I've never been to the theater really since then. I saw Tenet when there was one case in our region, and we did so well. As a country, people would point to us as doing well, at the top with South Korea, even though, as you guys said, we were just reactive. And then people would point to, and then if you point to Canada and then you point to the best in the whole country, even you could point to Kingston, because we, up until 3 months ago, we had maybe 3 deaths or something like that. So in the whole world pointing to us as one of the best 3 countries and then pointing to us here. And then we were doing so well that they picked our top doctor, and then now he's in heading Ontario, and we're not doing well at all. We have, when I went to see Tenet, we had 1 case.
I wouldn't
Now
blame
we
it
have
on the new doctor, though.
Neither would
1,574
I.
active cases.
Yeah, neither would I. I went and saw. I believe I went and saw Shang-Chi when there. I think there was 7 cases, 7 active cases.
Yeah,
But yeah, same thing.
And it was around the same
this
time a year later too.
Yeah,
It's
this is
it was
what
a
a
good
virus
time
fucking
to.
does. It's nothing that we've done wrong. It's nothing that changed when our doctor left. And we should be proud of the fact that we were on the top of the fucking game for a while. We were really on our game for a while. And it has nothing to do with anything that we fucked up or stopped doing or got lazy or anything like that. This is just what fucking happens with a goddamn virus. Stupid people that don't get vaccinated. And I was really, and I know it's mean to say, and I hate sounding like an old fucking
I don't think it's
curmudgeonly prick. No. The fact that people, and it was Fauci and Biden that brought it up, and I know Ford doesn't have the balls to say it, neither does Trudeau, but we all know what's going to happen. This winter is going to be a dark time for people that don't get vaccinated. If you don't get vaccinated with the Omicron variant, you are going to get sick and die. I think it is a fucking given. So
I know there's a lot of people though, and it's frustrating, but it's like just how it is. I hate how I'm out of focus here. Ooh. I'll just keep talking anyway. There, it's a bit better. There are many people who I got it and they're mild to no symptoms. Now they're all vaccinated anyway, actually. So it's like kind of interesting. But I heard somebody say, like on TikTok, of course, they were like, I wish this had killed Tom Hanks because then everybody would have taken it more seriously. I wish it would have killed the president, but because he was unvaccinated and he was just spouting lies, so he absolutely deserved to go the way of Herman Cain. But
it's a terrible thing to say, and it's a terrible thing to think, but it's the reality of, if we want to not get out of this faster, but if we want to recover faster, the people that are being the biggest problems, unfortunately, those people need to go away. And COVID is going to choose to make them go away.
A good way to look at it is like, if people are walking across the street without looking, eventually they're going to get hit by a car.
Yeah.
And it's their own fault.
And it makes you feel bad to say it, but that's the fucking reality of it.
The other thing that makes it more difficult, though, is that because we're all on the same planet, is so like vaccinated people and unvaccinated people interact all the time. I know where my parents work, it's not a mandate, and it wasn't a mandate where I lived before. Most of the people except one got vaccinated, so there are a lot of the same people there. But like, because of that, like I've heard about people who were basically immunocompromised in the first place, so they had to rely on people around them getting it, and they got it, but they were already in an at-risk group, and people got it around them, like immediate family members, but like that still wasn't enough, and they got it and they got like really sick, and they passed because they had some protection. But it's made me, it's so annoying because it's like there's never been so many movies I wanted to see at the theater. This is the first Spider-Man movie I haven't, out of the 9 that have come out, this is the first one. I was like 9 years old when the first Spider-Man came out. I even went to see Into the Spider-Verse, which I kind of initially wasn't going to, but after the rapturous reviews,
I think Into the Spider-Verse might be my fucking favorite outside of Spider-Man 2, but Into the Spider-Verse,
I ended up getting it
fantastic
for Christmas or my birthday, I think, recently. And the funny thing is that when I went to see it, the animation style bothered me. That I thought, I'm like, oh, is this supposed to be in 3D? And
that's the same thing. Yeah, same thing we thought.
Then
I went to get the 3D version.
Wasn't it in 3D as well, though?
Yeah,
it was. But I'm not a big fan of 3D. Yeah, I went to the 2D version, but it has a look of, especially for me, and I think probably similar to Will, that those first few minutes you're watching it, you're like, I'm fucking fairly certain I'm watching the version that's supposed to be in 3D. It's a little weird. It's a little off-putting to start, and your brain has to.
But who knows? Maybe it's the theater's fault because they have some setting messed up. Because how many times has that happened?
And that's why I was so concerned, because I went to see War for the Planet of the Apes, and they put up the 3D version accidentally, and that was just a year and a half before. So it was pretty recent to me. And they like the annoying thing now is like theaters make that mistake all the time and they won't notice unless somebody goes and complains, which is part of what I hate about the theater.
Yep.
So it was like
No more
coupled with all the
projections.
times like I get miserable every time I go to the theater. And the state of the city. I didn't want to go, and I live with a group of people, so
Well, that was just
all
yeah.
of those.
The main reason I want to bring it up is Phil. I think was the only one of us. So when I bought my tickets for me and my son, and I decided with
I coaxed you into it.
and then I lost $30 whatever it is, but I'd rather
you could have gotten a refund.
I think you can get a refund if they
but,
don't get claimed. That's what I heard.
I'll have to look into it, but I sent the email, but I haven't gotten a response to it yet.
It's probably might be too late. It's supposed to be.
No, it takes like 7
I'm not
days.
going to fucking
If they don't
die if
get
I lose
redeemed at the counter,
$30.
I might.
But my
is
whole
my
point was that
understanding.
I went or I didn't go because COVID was too fucking bonkers. So that's the main reason that I wanted to cover why Phil is the only one of us that's fucking seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I'm lucky to be alive.
What would you give it, Phil?
Oh, you want a straight up rating right away?
I guess, is it worth the hype is the question I wanted to know. And yeah, I guess to Will's question, what's the rating on it?
There's a big caveat here because anyone who hasn't seen the trailers or taken in any information about it will be absolutely bonkers about this movie. I feel like having seen the trailers and taking in so much about it, I missed out. And like I know a lot going in of what is going to be shown, and I was hoping for more surprises than what I ended up getting.
Okay.
Because I don't think that I have to say, I don't think the trailer gave away too much. Like they had to believe, like the entire premise is that the multiverse is threatened. So I think like anytime you're showing a movie, it's like you show who the hero is, you show who the villain is, and that's what they did. There wasn't a part of it where I'm like, oh, that's too much. But it's like, interesting how you point out, because I talked to you guys about Station 11. They after I had remembered the preview that I had seen weeks ago, but I didn't remember any specific points about it. It's kind of like when a movie trailer comes out a year ahead and you forget about it. But with Spider-Man, it's like, once you see it, it's like going in blind is obviously better, is what you're saying, right, Phil?
Oh yeah, especially for this movie. Like I wanted more of that Marvel thing where it's like the trailer is pretty much the first 15 minutes, or they fake out some stuff or whatever. Mm-hmm. Whereas I can't get into too many details on going into what I'm saying.
Kind of it. That this might be a 5-minute conversation because there's really not much you can get into.
I would say it's a good 7.5 out of 10. Mm-hmm. In my book.
Is it too long? Because it's about 2.5 hours. Is it too long, or
it clicks by? It's great. My biggest issue with the movie, and it won't spoil anything, is the same issue I had for the Venom Carnage movie. Ooh, and that was that it was really the scenes that were done in daylight look like a Marvel movie. The scenes that were done in darkness look like a Sony movie, where like in the dark, the CG looks all muddy and muddled, and
that's terrible.
And you hate to see that, right? Like you want to see it well, but whenever you see the same type of stuff done in the daylight shots, it looks like a clear Marvel movie. Mm-hmm. But all the dark stuff it was awful in my opinion.
So it's inconsistent, basically, is what you're saying. Like just visually, does that anchor into the plot as well, where it's like plot is inconsistent, or does the plot is the one thing that holds up?
The plot holds up, the story holds up, the acting holds up. It's funny. I just think I was ruined by the fact that I hate the dark CG stuff. I hate the dark action stuff. It just reminds me of a Sony movie that just Venom. Did you see the Let There Be Carnage movie, Will?
Yeah, but I thought that compared to Marvel stuff, their CGI is better. Like if I'm like Marvel has some like Thanos's face is an achievement. Some of the water effects in Shang-Chi are great. Even the parts of the dragon are great. But then you have like part when they're like swinging on the side of a building or something, and it looks like Play-Doh-y or muddy. And it's like parts
See,
of
I
that
think that
where
of
the
Sony.
CGI that I know that they're
Yeah.
using just it looks awful, and you're like, this doesn't like this could have been done with Spider-Man 2 era effects, which I saw a clip from that yesterday, and it's like the special effects for Spider-Man 2 are still outstanding.
Yeah, I think it's
And
the total opposite. I think Carnage was an absolute clusterfuck.
Yeah, it was just
Its CG
awful.
was terrible.
Mhm.
I remember watching it going, having the same feeling like, Jesus Christ, what fucking decade is this? This looks like
mhm.
2005 fucking CG.
And I feel like Sony does this on purpose. They don't feel like their CG is up to par, so they put it in the dark. And that's how I felt about this movie in certain spots. And it completely brought me out because I feel like, oh, we took the dark spots and we sent them to Sony. And then Marvel Studios did the light spots, which could be. You don't know.
It's interesting to me because the movie is entirely done by Disney or Marvel Studios, and Sony just distributes the thing and owns the rights to
It's
it.
all
So
licensing
Really?
shit. Yeah.
yeah. So basically it's like Marvel, it'd be like if you got a video game, like let's say, yeah, it's like the Spider-Man rights used to be owned by Activision before, Disney took them over and stuff like that. Um, and
On
what happened
Before
was
Sony took them over.
no, Sony actually sold them. Sony doesn't actually have the rights to the video games. It was an
Oh, the video
interesting
games.
thing
Okay,
where
sorry.
what
I know what
happened
you're
was
saying.
they sold the Spider-Man merchandising rights actually a few years ago because they needed cash flow and they kept the movie rights. So they sold them to Disney, but they somewhere along the line they pitched it to Disney, or Disney decided that because Sunset Overdrive, the video game, was just made, that they would have them, or maybe they just had a really good presentation, that Insomniac would be the one to make the game. And Insomniac, because of their relationship with PlayStation, even though they had just made an Xbox exclusive, decided to make it for PlayStation. Xbox could have stopped them. They weren't interested. So they just made it exclusive
Just
to PlayStation.
horrible.
And yeah, it
Yeah.
is a terrible business decision in like so many
And
ways.
now Sony has
And
Wolverine.
then, yeah, and then like Insomniac, as they do, they did a great job. The game's a success. And then Disney sees that it's a success and they're like, okay, well then you're going to be the exclusive developer. And then what um Sony did was they bought the one studio that made the game so that they would only make it going forward. And it's like Microsoft just kind of didn't care
Yep.
and let it slip by them. But it used to be a multi-platform thing, but it's essentially what it is now for video games as for movies, where it's like Disney is the one doing it or commissioning it, and then Sony is just holding it. I guess the better example would be like if Insomniac made the game, and then it was published by Activision, is kind of the movie situation we have, where basically another company makes it
Yeah,
and they get all their feeds,
I thought
and then
Sony was
somebody
doing it.
produces and releases it. Pardon?
So I was under the idea that Sony was doing the Spider-Man movie, but Marvel was in on it, type thing. Rather,
No, to my
not.
understanding, the way that it
Yeah.
works is Sony owns licensing for Spider-Man films. Marvel sold it to Sony.
Yeah.
If they want to make him part of the MCU, the way that I've heard it described is it's kind of like a marriage where Disney agrees, yes, we'll put him into the, Sony agrees, yes, you can have him, put him into the movie, but you cannot make any element of Spider-Man unique to Disney where it is required. Effectively, we can take him out at any time if we want to, which is why a lot of people are saying that the way that Disney is going to get around this is by effectively making him the Iron Spider, because Disney owns the Iron Spider, Sony does not. Sony owns Spider-Man.
This is why we don't get a exclusive Hulk movie, because I believe Sony or someone else
Universal.
owns Hulk.
All these fucked up weird ass
Universal
licensing,
Pictures,
that's the thing with Spider-Man, that he's owned by Sony but effectively lent to Disney to make a Marvel movie, but at any time they're allowed to pull out and say, nope, can't do it anymore, which would be stupid.
Sony
I
has
want
to
to. I
make-
want to say about the Amazing movies though is that like I'll say this: the Amazing Spider-Man movies, like they're not very good movies, as especially compared to the rest of the series. They're like in the bottom
That's a
tier.
fucking
But there's a lot of
understatement.
good things about them. Like you can tell that they spent the money. In my opinion, at least Amazing Spider-Man 2, or maybe more so Amazing Spider-Man, the special effects are top tier. Like you feel that they're throwing everything in the kitchen sink. Whereas with a lot of the Marvel movies in general, like I said, they have amazing elements to them, but I find like that muddy things like to me, like there are a lot like I like they were going for a bit more cartoonish with Venom Let There Be Carnage, but like the muddiness and stuff is still there. I like the special effects more than you did, but I feel the inconsistency in the effects is more just because to get this movie out the door, they're using 12 different effects companies.
Yeah.
And because of like secrecy about everything and leaking and that kind of thing, it's kind of maybe those parts are rushed or underdeveloped.
Could be.
I don't know.
So when I was there, okay, so the reason why the theaters had okay, let's go back to that. The theater had a full opening, which was every seat was available, and it was sold out. This was because this was all set up to pre-order seats before action took place to limit capacity to 50%, I think it was.
Yeah.
And even so, the 50% thing didn't come into phase until this past today.
Monday.
Yeah.
Or Sunday, yeah.
So we had a
Yeah.
full theater. There were no issues that I could tell. People next to me were nice.
I
It
think
didn't
that's always
seem
the
like they
case
had
though with
COVID.
opening weekend, isn't it?
Didn't
Like
seem
if you go
they had
see something
COVID.
on opening weekend, the people who are there are the diehards. It's only
Yeah.
my problem when I go on Cheap Tuesday or something with my dad, and like everybody's like, "Oh, what's playing tonight? It's Cheap Tuesday. Let's go." But if you go with the fans, like it's kind of, I've never
Yep.
really had the problem on opening night or opening week where it's like the fans were too annoying. Even though in practice I'm like, wow, if everybody's hooting and hollering after every single fucking thing, that would annoy me. But like it's like when I went to go see The Dark Knight, it's like people were really animated, but that like added to the movie, the showmanship of the movie. So I imagine that's what it was like for you.
There's a time to be animated. I remember going to see Force Awakens. So I went for the Star Wars movie marathon when Force Awakens came out. So it was all 7 movies.
You crazy bastard.
And we were all, I mean, imagine a room of fucking like 300 Star Wars nerds.
Yeah.
After we've been watching movies for 17 hours, like we were in bad shape. But by the time it got to Force Awakens, we were like, everybody was losing their mind with how excited we all were. And
what was the biggest fan reaction there?
Han Solo, definitely Han Solo. By the end of it, it's funny. By the end of it with Luke, we were all like, woo! Like we were done. But everybody, the Millennium Falcon got a huge fucking yell. Princess Leia got a huge fucking yell. But it like that was very, very animated. And a complete flip side, I think I brought this up to Phil before. I went and saw 2001 with Cara Delevingne and Frank Poole. I can't remember the guy's last name, but the guys that played the 2 principal actors in that movie. And it was sold out. It was at the Bell Lightbox in Toronto. It was sold out, and I could hear someone chewing their popcorn 12 rows in front of me. And that's a silent movie. If you've ever seen that movie, it takes its place in space, so it's entirely silent, or those parts entirely. And it was fucking silent. Nobody, I'm pretty sure that people were trying to limit their breathing.
Don't go
so when
into
you go see a movie with fucking real fans of a movie, I love it. Like that's.
But doesn't that suck then if you can hear people?
Or just don't go to the silent movies because you know that's
once
that
person knew that everybody could hear them, they're like, oh fuck. And then there was, and the best part of that movie, I got to admit, so that the whole movie plays, and at the end we got a Q&A with the 2 actors, and the person over there goes, okay, does anybody have any questions? And everybody's fucking hand, like every person in the theater's hand went up, and they go to over, how are you? And the one guy goes, this guy says, Cara Delevingne, did Stanley Kubrick ever tell you what the ending of the movie means? And I want to say 75% of the hands went down. All of us wanted to know about the fucking ending.
Nice.
And we're all like just waiting on bated breath.
Oh, you guys haven't heard?
Answer. Mm-hmm. What? Oh, yeah, we're all waiting for Cara Delevingne to answer. And he goes, honestly, we asked Stanley a couple times what the ending means, and he said he didn't care. He goes,
Yeah.
he's not very big on endings. It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
he thinks the end of the movie is. It matters what you think the end of the movie is. And all of us were like, oh, God damn it. We wanted the answer from the guy that made the fucking movie. But no, and that's with all of Kubrick's work. I remember a great interview that someone had with him after 2001. They're like, you know, this movie doesn't answer anything. He's like, a good movie doesn't answer anything. A good movie makes you think of questions. A good movie asks you to question things yourself, which I truly believe in. But that was my best experience in the theater, was definitely watching 2001.
Yeah.
So, any other questions about Spider-Man?
Yeah. A couple of things. So it's a solid B. Where does that rank the series then? Spider-Man 1, 2, 3, amazing, or just compare it to the Home trilogy? Where does it rank?
Oh,
Is it better than Homecoming?
generally speaking, probably, but like,
I don't know, man. It'd be hard to fucking.
this is
Keaton as the
difficult
Vulture
because
was great.
Is it better than Far From Home too? I would imagine.
I'd say that's pretty
it's
easy.
way better than the Mysterio one. If that's
Yeah.
that's what that one is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hated that one.
I hated that
I can't say
one
I
too.
hated it, but it was definitely the weakest of the fucking
Well,
franchise.
the movie trying to play coy with, it's ridiculous to play coy that Mysterio is somehow a good guy. It's like, we know, like, there's nobody introduced in this movie. It's very clear that like he's going to be the bad guy just because there's a vacuum there. Otherwise he's a pointless character, and movies don't, like, they have pointless characters, but they don't have totally pointless characters.
This movie is very fun for the Marvel / Spider-Man fan who wants those like head nods to the.
But like a lot of people, like, and this is what irritates me, is a lot of people compare that to, like, I what comes to mind for me is Rise of Skywalker, which very cheaply put in as many of those Easter egg nods as possible, even whether they were necessary or
love
not.
them.
And it was just,
How dare you insinuate Rise of Skywalker was bad? It was wonderful.
it's awful.
That's the Disney line. It made me cry. It had so much fucking.
But that's what people were saying when it first came out 2 years ago.
I don't know of me and my friends who are Star Wars fans. I don't know anyone that liked that movie. And I'm sure everybody's touting the fucking line, you know, like all because, you know, Disney has a lot of people in their pocket. And we're getting off topic, but the last thing I'll say about it is I don't know anybody who enjoyed Rise of Skywalker. I haven't met one person that enjoyed it. My question, sorry not to cut you off, Will, but in regards to Spider-Man, is it more in the vein of the new stuff we've seen, like Shang-Chi and the Eternals, Loki, WandaVision, Captain Soldier Metal Arm? Is it more in vein with, like, is it following that fluidity, or because I find those movies very different than the movies that came before them. The movies that came before them are, I feel like they're tighter movies. They aren't as all over the as throw everything against the wall and see what sticks. Whereas new movies like Shang-Chi, especially fucking Eternals, Loki, Hawkeye, they're throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. Did you get that vibe with Spider-Man?
Come back at me on that, but yes. Like, once you see it, let me know if you think the same. But I think, yes, it's in the same vein, and I love that stuff. That made me happy. I enjoyed the movie. I just those parts that I've already said, they killed my mood.
How's the acting?
It was good.
Yeah, pretty much.
Insert name here was good. Insert name here was good. And
Can we? Well, never mind.
I don't know. Like, out of the gate, and we've talked about Benedict Cumberbatch before. I think he's a fine actor. I loved him as fucking Sherlock. Love him as bad guys. I think Doctor Strange is his weakest fucking role because it's such a worthless character.
I was thinking you can tell because, like, out of all the effusive praise I hear, nobody ever mentioned Benedict Cumberbatch. Like, they mentioned X name, who I don't know if you guys want to reveal, because, like, I know, like, we know about the villains at least.
No spoilers.
Like, we know.
Yeah.
Okay. So, like, what's in the trailer? We can't spoil that.
If it's in the trailer, I think that's okay.
Oh, okay.
Alfred I know Alfred Molina and Willem Dafoe are both there, but they're both wonderful fucking they're both wonderful actors.
And
anyway.
I hear they're great in the movie. It's like Willem Dafoe and X name, who we can't reveal.
No, they're great.
Is great. But it's, as far as Marvel acting goes, it's kind of interesting because it's like consistent. It's like that David Mamet where everybody's good but not great, because lest that take away from it. Or, you know, you get the occasional, you know, Robert Downey Jr. is fantastic. He carries the whole movie kind of thing. Or the comic relief, you know, steals the show.
Will say that if maybe half or more of the movie is in darkness, if they would have changed that to be in daylight, this would have gone up a solid, like went up to an A at least.
So what's the problem exactly? It's just the CGI.
Hard to see. You can't, like, it's all muddy. Like, it's not super clear. I like the clarity in the daylight, and I think it might come down to CG and darkness in general, where it's just it just looks like garbage most of the time.
But it's interesting because isn't it supposed to be better in darkness because there's less detail that has to be done. I find it so funny. That's with
the problem. It's Marvel. Like, it gets muddy because there's less detail, and like if you're really looking for it, the average fan probably doesn't care too much, but like someone who is like really looking and really enjoying this CG that's going on, I want it to look as realistic as possible.
But then when you're shooting something in daylight, though, isn't it like with the direct light source, it like that's got to be harder. Like it's easier to see, I get that, but in terms of CGI modeling, it's more difficult.
Oh, I'm sure it's harder for them, but that's not my problem. They should make it look good.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, are you guys seeing a time left?
Yeah. That's why we're ending.
Okay.
We have
why do I see one timer? Why do I see one timer that says 27:38 and another one that says 7:21?
At the end of the day, the movie's doing really well.
Yeah, third biggest fucking box office opening in history.
Second, actually, now that the numbers on Sunday were stronger than expected, so it opened higher than even Infinity War.
Nice. So like it did gangbusters. What the rumor going around is there's another Spider-Man in the works. That was iffy, and yeah, I
it's funny
enjoyed it.
It's not an if. It's like they totally will. It's just they have nothing prepared. Like you can tell with this one, it's like after The Force Awakens, it's like, ooh, what are they gonna do next? And it's like whenever Rian Johnson writes it is what it's gonna be. There's no like I imagine what the vibe I get from you, Phil, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that like going forward, the same thing with the Eternals. It's like, okay, we're throwing out this, we're gonna see where this goes, kind of thing. But there's no, it's all building to this in the future kind of vibe we got from earlier phases of Marvel. Is that safe to say? Where it's like,
I'm still in the camp where it's building to something huge, but we don't see it that much. Like we're seeing Kang, we're seeing
Blade,
Scarlet Witch. You're seeing Scariant Witch. The big baddies in Eternals. Like
who cares?
You're seeing all these things, but I feel like it's all going to come around, and we're going to see a bigger.
So you do see a bigger picture coming into place where you think that they are working towards something. It doesn't feel like they're making it up as it goes along.
I do, but I understand that view because I heard that last time too. Yeah. Like other people were saying the same thing last time. Where's this going? It doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. And then it came together, and people were freaked out and loved it. And so I'm hoping for that, but we never know.
Was it better than you expected?
The movie Spider-Man? Yeah. No, because I was let down a bit, but still got a good rating for me.
What were you most let down by, CGI aside?
Can't say. Not allowed. I'm not allowed. It's a spoiler.
So it's related to the plot, basically, like plot and character. Yeah.
Yes, something kind of disappointed me on that. But I understand what they did there.
Yeah. I find it kind of funny because with Far From Home, they had there was this deal of like, are Sony and them going to refinance, which I find hilarious because it's like, of course they will. This movie's making $1 billion and stuff like that. But it was like, oh, don't worry. Sony's like, don't worry. We have the writers from Far From Home locked down. That's who they locked down. They didn't lock down the director. They locked down
thank
like
fuck
the
they didn't
weakest
lock
part.
down anybody from Amazing Spider-Man. That stooge Alex Kurtzman and that dumb shit Robert Orsi. As long as they didn't get either of those stupid fucks, that's fine.
Once you guys are able to buy this on Disney Plus or Sony Plus, whatever.
It'll go to
whatever it
Netflix
comes out
first,
on.
actually.
Oh, will it? Okay.
Yeah.
However you guys are able to watch it,
I'd be very surprised.
it'll
by
be
that.
very interesting to see your opinions, and we can bounce off each other. We'll come back.
Yeah,
for
this
that.
might be one I have to rent on VOD, obviously, I guess, eh? Like, because it's
And
doing
soon.
like but I'm thinking
Ish.
that, do you think that they'll, as soon as it hits DVD, like in April, or I forget, they already announced a release date where it's like late March even, which it probably will be, could even be earlier than that, do you think like day one they'll, no, because I guess they would have done
I
that.
don't know
like
with
the
this
last one.
one. They should in general with other releases, but with this one, they might try to capitalize and do like a month after.
Because their
I
current
got a
deal
sneaky
is it goes to
suspicion they're gonna
Netflix
try to get
first,
it out
Disney
sooner.
Plus second. What were you
we
saying,
Try
Rob?
to get it out sooner.
We have to end. So say goodbye. Watchingcomplain.com.
Oh yeah, we all have
Oh,
shirts. Phil made his shirts.
Yeah,
Show my
filmgamer.com.
tits off.
We'll talk about that in the
Hey, where'd you
podcast
get these
coming up.
shirts from?
We'll talk about that in the podcast coming up.
Yeah.
Say goodbye.
Fuck off.